Did you know that Argentina was one of the world's wealthiest countries in the early 20th century? Yet today, it's struggling with a myriad of economic challenges. How did this happen? Argentina's economy, a fascinating tale of growth, decline, and resilience, is one of the most historically volatile in Latin America. The Argentine economy has weathered periods of prosperity and hardship, each leaving indelible marks on the country's economic landscape. Once a beacon of wealth and prosperity, Argentina was an economic powerhouse in the early 20th century, thanks to its thriving export of agricultural products. It was during this period the country rose to prominence as one of the world's wealthiest economies. But this dependence on agricultural exports was a double-edged sword, leaving Argentina vulnerable to commodity price shocks. As the world moved through the throes of the Second World War, Argentina sought to diversify its economy. The country embarked on a journey of industrialization and import substitution. This strategy spurred rapid growth, but it also kindled inflation and fiscal deficits, leading to an economic imbalance that would later come back to haunt Argentina. Fast forward to the 1980s, and Argentina was grappling with a severe debt crisis. This led to the largest default in history up to that point in 2001. These economic peaks and troughs weren't just numbers on a graph. They were real events that shaped the lives of millions of Argentinians and altered the course of the country's history. The last 20 years have been no less tumultuous. Argentina has faced a series of economic challenges, from the fallout of the 2001 crisis to the recent COVID-19 pandemic. Despite these challenges, Argentina has shown a remarkable capacity to adapt and persevere. Today, Argentina's economy faces significant hurdles, including high inflation and fiscal deficits. Yet the country's rich history and resilient spirit suggest that it's far too soon to write Argentina's economic obituary. The Argentine economy is a complex tapestry woven from threads of history, politics, and economics. It's a story of a country that has seen the heights of prosperity and the depths of economic despair. It's a story that continues to evolve, shaped by the decisions of today and the uncertainties of tomorrow. To fully understand Argentina's economic landscape, we need to delve into its rich history. Argentina gained independence from Spain in 1816, embarking on a journey of economic and political transformation. This newly formed nation, rich in fertile land and natural resources, soon found its footing in the global arena as an agricultural powerhouse. The vast Argentine plains, known as the Pampas, were perfect for cattle and sheep farming, propelling the country into the forefront of meat exports. As Argentina's population grew, so did its farming capabilities. The influx of immigrants, particularly from Italy and Spain, brought a wealth of agricultural knowledge, fostering an environment conducive to the cultivation of a variety of crops. This was the birth of Argentina's grain industry. The country's fertile land and favorable climate allowed for the successful cultivation of wheat and maize, and later, soybeans. The 19th century saw Argentina capitalizing on these natural advantages, exporting agricultural products across the globe. The country's economy thrived, and by the close of the century, Argentina was one of the world's wealthiest nations. This wealth, however, was not evenly distributed. The rural working class, the backbone of Argentina's agricultural success, reaped little of the benefits. This socio-economic disparity would later fuel political tensions and reform movements. Despite these internal struggles, Argentina's economy continued to grow, bolstered by the global demand for its agricultural products. But this growth came at a cost. Argentina's reliance on agricultural exports made it vulnerable. The country's economic well-being was now tied to the unpredictable nature of global commodity markets. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, Argentina found itself at the mercy of these markets. Fluctuations in commodity prices would lead to periods of economic boom and bust, leaving the country susceptible to external shocks. This dependence on agricultural exports, however, left the country vulnerable to commodity price shocks. The aftermath of World War II saw Argentina pursuing a new economic strategy: industrialization and import substitution. This shift was a distinct departure from the country's earlier reliance on agricultural exports, a strategy that had left Argentina vulnerable to the whims of international commodity markets. So, Argentina turned inward. The government aimed to protect and grow domestic industries, reducing reliance on foreign imports. This strategy, known as import substitution, was designed to stimulate domestic production, and reduce foreign dependency. Alongside this, Argentina embarked on a journey of industrialization, aiming to transform the economy from an agriculture-based one to an industrial powerhouse. The results were initially promising. The country experienced rapid economic growth as new industries sprouted and existing ones expanded. Jobs were created, wages increased, and for a while it seemed that Argentina was on the cusp of economic greatness. But as the economy grew, so did inflation. Prices rose, the cost of living increased, and the Argentine peso began to lose its value. The government, in its pursuit of economic growth, was spending more than it was earning, leading to fiscal deficits. Debts started to pile up, both domestically and internationally. The government's response was to print more money, but this only fueled inflation further. Before long, Argentina was caught in an inflationary spiral, where prices and wages chased each other in an ever-escalating cycle. As the fiscal deficits grew, so did Argentina's reliance on foreign loans. The country began to borrow heavily, both to finance its fiscal deficit and to maintain the fixed exchange rate of the peso. This borrowing spree, however, only served to plunge the country deeper into debt. In the end, the strategy of industrialization and import substitution, while initially promising, led to a series of economic woes. Inflation, fiscal deficits, and heavy borrowing created an unstable economic environment, setting the stage for the devastating debt crisis of the 1980s. This path led to an economic rollercoaster ride, culminating in the 1980s debt crisis. The 1980s were marked by a severe debt crisis that led Argentina to the largest default in history up to that point in 2001. Let's delve into the roots of this crisis. The 1970s and 80s saw Argentina's debt skyrocket, largely due to the country's reliance on foreign loans for economic development. With global interest rates soaring, the burden of Argentina's debt became crippling. The country was stuck in a vicious cycle, borrowing more to repay existing loans, a strategy that only plunged it deeper into debt. The situation came to a head in 2001. The Argentine government, in a desperate move to avoid default, imposed a series of restrictive measures, notably the Corralito, which limited cash withdrawals from banks. This sparked widespread social unrest, leading to a change in government, but it was inevitable. Argentina tumbled into default, unable to meet its debt obligations. The default wasn't just the largest in history, it was a human tragedy. Unemployment soared, poverty rates spiked, and countless Argentinians found themselves without access to basic needs. The country's GDP plummeted by around 11% in a single year, a stark reflection of the devastating impact of the crisis. But the fallout extended beyond Argentina's borders. The default sent shockwaves through the international financial system, prompting fears of a domino effect that could destabilize emerging markets worldwide. It was a stark reminder of our interconnected global economy, where a crisis in one nation can ripple out to affect many others. In the aftermath, Argentina became something of a financial pariah, ostracized from international capital markets and facing a long, difficult road to economic recovery. The default also brought about a significant shift in Argentina's economic policy as the country sought to regain its financial footing and restore its international credibility. The economic crisis of 2001 triggered a series of unconventional economic measures. These measures, while controversial, were a response to an unprecedented situation. They mark a pivotal moment in Argentina's economic history, a moment that still shapes the country's financial landscape today. The last 2 decades have been a whirlwind of economic challenges and changes for Argentina. Following the economic crisis of 2001, Argentina implemented a series of measures to regain control over its economy, including freezing public utilities tariffs and implementing the currency peg, which restricted access to the dollar. These policies aimed to control inflation and protect international reserves. However, they also led to a decline in foreign investment, demonstrating the delicate balance that must be maintained in economic management. The presidency of Nestor Kirchner from 2003 to 2007 and his wife Cristina Fernández de Kirchner from 2007 to 2015 brought a period of sustained economic growth to Argentina. This growth was largely driven by a commodities boom, especially in soy. However, the management of public finances during this time left Argentina vulnerable to external shocks, echoing the country's historical economic patterns. In 2015, Mauricio Macri took office with a platform of economic reforms, and a promise to open Argentina to the international market. While some positive measures were implemented, including a reduction in subsidies, the country continued to grapple with persistent inflation and a rising external debt. It became clear that the path to a stable economy was not a straightforward one. Then, in 2019, Argentina saw the return of Peronism to power with the election of Alberto Fernandez as president and Cristina Fernández de Kirchner as vice president. This brought about significant changes in economic policy, including increased public spending and price controls. Once again, Argentina found itself navigating a new economic course. The COVID-19 pandemic added another layer of complexity to Argentina's already intricate economic picture. The global health crisis has further exacerbated economic problems, forcing the country to adapt and innovate in response to unprecedented challenges. As we move forward, it remains to be seen how Argentina's economy will evolve and what lessons can be drawn from its rich and complex history. Today, Argentina grapples with high inflation, fiscal deficit, and other significant challenges. Navigating the Argentine economic landscape isn't for the faint-hearted. The country is currently wrestling with a high inflation rate that has consistently been one of the world's highest. Compounding this issue is a fiscal deficit that threatens to undermine the country's economic stability. These challenges are further heightened by a sizable external debt, which has led to a complicated relationship with international creditors. But it's not all doom and gloom. Despite these hurdles, Argentina has proven to be resilient, with a diversified economy driven by a wide range of sectors. Agriculture, particularly the production and export of soy, corn, and beef, remains a key pillar. The industrial sector, too, is diverse, ranging from automotive to pharmaceuticals, while the services sector, especially tourism, has been a strong performer. So, what does all this mean for investors? Well, it's a mixed bag. On one hand, the high inflation rate and fiscal deficit can be seen as red flags, signaling a potentially unstable investment climate. On the other hand, Argentina's economic diversity, coupled with its wealth of natural resources and a highly educated workforce, offer promising opportunities for savvy investors. There are, however, a few sectors that have been performing well and attracting foreign investment. Renewable energy, for instance, is a growing industry with significant potential, bolstered by Argentina's abundant wind and solar resources. The tech sector, too, has been a bright spot, with Buenos Aires emerging as a robust tech hub in Latin America. It's also worth noting that Argentina has been making efforts to improve its investment climate. Recent policies aim to provide more stability and predictability, and there's been a push towards greater transparency and openness to foreign investment. In conclusion, while Argentina's current economic situation presents significant challenges, it's a country with undeniable potential. Navigating its complex economic landscape requires a deep understanding of the market and a willingness to take on some risk. But for those who are up to the challenge, the Argentine economy offers intriguing opportunities. Despite these challenges, Argentina's economy is not without opportunities and potential. From being one of the world's wealthiest countries to experiencing one of the largest defaults in history, Argentina's economy is a fascinating study. We've journeyed through Argentina's tumultuous economic history, from its early days of independence, through the cycles of agricultural exports and industrialization, to the infamous debt crisis. We've delved into the last 20 years, revealing a series of economic challenges, policy shifts, and their impacts. We've also assessed the current economic climate in Argentina, highlighting significant issues like high inflation and fiscal deficits. Our exploration of Argentina's economy has been extensive and enlightening, shedding light on the intricate interplay of politics, policy, and economics. As we've seen, Argentina's economy, while currently facing significant challenges, holds a rich and complex history that shapes its present and future. Understanding Argentina's economic history and current challenges is key to predicting its future trajectory and gauging its investment potential.